Hi, this is Louise from Happiest Hounds Dog Training. Here's a short clip going into some of the life skills for puppies in a bit more detail. These were developed by behavioural scientists at the University of Lincoln. Just as a recap, here are the 10 key life skills. We mentioned these in the previous video and they'll go into much more detail in the book you'll receive at your first class. So just to look at a couple of them in more detail, I have confidence. This is really about approaching novel items, things that your dog hasn't come across before, in a confident manner, which means they approach them without backing up or barking or hiding behind you or running away. And if they do run away from things that are novel, that's absolutely fine. We need to give them the space that they can do that and allow them to approach in their own time. We'll also team this up with stepping over items on the floor. As you can see, there's poles at different heights and there's hula hoops on the floor. This is about puppies learning to step over them nice and slowly, which is great for balance muscle development and good proprioception in our growing puppies. I like to be touched is a life skill all about grooming and handling, really useful for going to the vets or the groomers, or if you need to give your puppy ear drops or eye drops at home. Here's a short video showing my border collie Marley. He had a little wound on his leg. I needed to trim the fur around it. And he's not being restrained. He's just laying down nice and calmly. I've taught him to do this. And he gets fed biscuits out of this little pot while he's laying there nice and calm. It just means that I can trim the fur around his wound while he's staying nice and still. I can do it on my own. I don't need anyone to help me. And he's quite happy laying there. He's not being restrained, and it just makes our life lots easier. It's great for his welfare because he's getting rewarded with tasty biscuits while he lays nice and calmly. I can be calm is one of my favourite life skills. We'll teach puppies to go to their bed and settle while you're preparing and pretending to eat food in class. We'll also teach them to do this while you're preparing their own food and putting treats into their food bowls. At home, it's handy to use the Kong toys that we mentioned in the first clip when we talked about what to bring to class. We can give these to our dogs as something long-lasting to amuse themselves while you're eating your dinner or you've got guests round or you're trying to get the kids ready for school, for example. Now, when you're out of the house, you've not always got a stuffed Kong toy with you, so we can teach our dogs a cue that means no attention's available and they can settle at your feet. What you'll see here is my foot is on my dog's lead. He's got enough room to sit down or stand, but he can't move away too much. And what I'm doing here is I'll drop treats down just slowly in between his front legs when he's looking away, and this will reinforce him. It rewards him for being nice and calm at my feet. We do want to fade the food as quickly as possible so the dog doesn't become reliant on the food, but this is the first stage of how we're going to teach this in class. What you can't see is that this is right next to an agility ring, so there's lots going on and it's really handy to have my dog chilled out at my feet when there's lots of activity going on around us. So boundaries and consistency are so important for our dogs. We must be consistent with our dogs. It's how they learn the best and how they understand what's happening in their lives. They're living in a human society, remember, so it is really about keeping up our side of the bargain as well. So there is a list of house rules for you to fill in. It's a blank list. It was emailed on your PDF files that you got just before you started classes. Fill those in. That's for you to fill in as a household. If you all don't want the dogs on the sofa, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure that everyone sticks to that rule. Now, if your dogs do want to get on the sofa, it's just because they want to be comfortable or be near you. So do just give them the option of having a nice comfy bed by the sofa if they're not allowed on it, or sit on the floor with them. Just keep up our side of the bargain. Dogs do what works for them. It's about trying to make what works for us work for the dog. I can listen. This is where obedience is important as part of the life skills. And for me, the thing that I want my dog to listen to the first time I ask them is a recall. I want my dog to come back the first time I ask them, even if it's distracting and even if there's lots of other things they might want to do. I am going to make this highly rewarding for them to come running back to me, but we teach this when there's little distractions at first. If I ask my dog to sit and they don't sit the first time I ask them, I'm really not that bothered. For me, recall is much more important. I can teach my dog to sit the first time I ask them after puppy classes at any time in their life, but I want them to come back when called. This is something we'll focus on a lot in our puppy classes. With positive trainers, we use reward-based methods, but that doesn't mean we're permissive. It's not about letting our dogs just do everything that they want to do. We'll manage the situation so they can't practice the behaviours that we don't want them to practice. I have good manners is another life skill. For me, that means 4 feet on the floor. This is an example of my dog. When I've got a tuggy toy, I taught him that he keeps his feet on the floor until I give him permission to take the tuggy, and I've also taught him a drop cue. We'll start off the beginnings of these exercises in classes, but for me, good manners is having 4 feet on the floor.
Tuggy. Good boy. Good boy. Tuggy, tuggy. Good boy. Drop. Good boy.
Thanks for listening. Looking forward to seeing you in classes.